Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, we're going to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Makar, Kadash. We send up honors to our apostles and elders here at Great Millstone. I got Brother Kadash with me. Lesson, he comes out to the camp faithfully. And we got together to do this lesson. It is really based off of what happened at camp. At camp, we had about 5 Somalians. Looked like they were Kushites, but they could also be Jake because they came up. They were sincere about asking questions. And one of the men, because they had so many questions, one of the men said that, because we were talking about the Quran, and he said that when they read the Quran, they actually have like other, I don't want to say specialists, the word's not coming to me right now, people who study the Quran, and they have their commentaries, and they have their breakdowns on it. He said that that's what they read to get the understanding of the Quran. And he said, what do we use when we read the Bible? Like, do we just go off our own interpretation, or do we go off of how do we know pretty much what we're reading is legit? Because he's pretty much saying like, okay, if I read the book, if I take it this way, then this brother can take it a different way, and that brother can take it a different way. So ultimately, how do we know that what we're reading is in fact true, and what we have is the truth?
And he bring up prophets. So you had said what prophecy has Muhammad made. They really couldn't give us an answer.
Either they didn't know or they couldn't give us an answer because he asked, they believe Muhammad is the prophet. And he asked, okay, so what do I think about that? I said, well, my response would be, show me, because he said in the Bible, he said in the Bible. And I said, well, my response would be, show me in the Bible where the scriptures talk about Muhammad being a prophet. And then I don't think they came up with anything. But it could be that they weren't prepared, but either way, they're going to be doing their research. They're going to be doing their research because they came, according to the brother, they came by, saw us, stopped, served around, stopped just to come talk to us. So they definitely were inquirers. We broke it down to them. Ultimately, what I summarized to them is that the Holy Spirit is how we know that this is the truth. But the scriptures do go into it, and that's what we're going to go into. You start from there.
Yep. Deuteronomy chapter 18, starting at verse 19. And it should come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he should speak in my name, I will require it of him. But the prophet which shall speak, which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or that should speak in the name of other gods, even the prophet should die.
And even that prophet should die, because it's easy for a man to just come up and say, I am a prophet of the Lord. In fact, I thought of another example. It's easy for a man to say that. Like, hear me, I'm the prophet of the Lord, so forth and so on. So, just like they asked, the scripture's going to go into is like, us as Israelites, well, how the hell do we, how do we differentiate between who's telling the truth and who's not?
And if thou say in thy heart, how shall we know the word which the Lord has not spoken? When a prophet speaketh in the name of the Lord, if the thing follow not, nor come to pass, that is the thing which the Lord has not spoken. But the prophet has spoken it presumptuously. Thou shalt not be afraid of him.
Now, if you can go to Jeremiah chapter 28. So, the Lord said, when that prophet speaketh, if it don't come to pass, him you don't listen to. He spoken of his own will presumptuously, meaning he was self-willed, right? And he said, thou shalt not be afraid of him. So, those are the prophets you don't listen to. Summarize, those are your Christian pastors. Those are all your Edomite pastors. All of them, all right? And Muhammad also was one of them. Because our thing, the Bible is based around prophecies. So, at the end of the day, we're going to say, well, what prophecy? One that shows that this man Muhammad will come to be great. And also, what prophecies did he prophesy that was going to happen? Right? And one example that he gave, which we proved to the Bible that was false, he was talking about how death works. And we said, no, it's called reincarnation. We proved in the Bible that reincarnation is biblical with John, and they started to inquire more. So they were trying to pick our brains and say, like, how do we know what we're reading, the Bible, is legit? And that's mainly because of prophecies. The Holy Spirit's dealing with us, and we have evidence all around us. Just us being here, us being awakened to this truth. That's proof right there. You think this was just some, a trend or something? We would have been falling off. right? The Esau, the so-called white man, has tried effortlessly for hundreds of years to keep this truth out of our hands. That's how we know that it's the truth. Because the first thing when we come to the knowledge is, okay, well, why lie? If this Bible isn't real and this is fake, why lie to us the whole time? Right? Why try to keep this from us? Because we know it's the truth.
And we see prophecy starting to pass too. You have brought up like the Christian church, and a lot of them say you're going to be what they say, you're going to be beamed up before tribulations, the rapture.
Right.
Right. So that goes into what he was saying too. With if he's not speaking of the Lord, because clearly in this book it tells you that there's things like Jacob's trouble and stuff that you're seeing starting to happen right now.
Right. It's a buildup. And the rapture, they're getting it. They getting it. They getting the idea from the scriptures, but they're not understanding what it is.
Because they're saying you're supposed to be raptured before tribulation, but that's not going to happen. If you're the elect, you'll be raptured mid or right after the end.
And their thing is right after the rapture. That's when Satan comes up and the angels fight. That's not biblical at all.
Right.
And you've also noticed it, but pretty much every year, I didn't see it last year or this year. Every year, some people came up, hand out flyers and stuff, and say the Lord will come back on this day, that day, this day. That's been happening for a few years. It hasn't happened recently though, right? That's bullshit. That's proving that that's false. Acts chapter 1 clearly says nobody knows that the Most High name is. So, but you're gonna have people like that that's gonna do that. That's how you know those are the people not to listen to.
All right. Yeah. What do you want in 28?
Start from the top.
From the top. Starting from verse 1. And it came to pass the same year, in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, in the 4th year, and in the 5th month, that Hananiah, the son of Azor the prophet, which was of Gideon, spake unto me in the house of the Lord, in the presence of the priests and all the people, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, saying, I have broken the yoke of the king of Babylon. Within 2 full years will I bring again into this place all the vessels of the Lord's house that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, took away from this place and carried them into Babylon.
Okay, so you got this guy named Hananiah came up and was like, Thus said the Lord, in 2 years, the Most High gonna bring down Nebuchadnezzar. And he was so convincing that he even convinced Jeremiah. Now those what you would say, those would be good news to the nation of Israel to know that, right? You keep going.
Okay. It says, And I will bring again to this place Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, with all the captives of Judah that went into Babylon, saith the Lord, for I will break the yoke of the king of Babylon. Then the prophet Jeremiah said unto the prophet Hananiah, in the presence of the priests and in the presence of all the people that stood in the house of the Lord, even the prophet Jeremiah said, Amen. The Lord do so, the Lord perform thy words which thou hast prophesied, to bring again the vessel of the Lord's house and all that is carried away captive from Babylon into this place.
So now you're gonna jump to verse 10. So Jeremiah believed, that's how convincing he was, right? He was, probably clapping, like, look, thus saith the Lord, right? The Lord has spoken. In 2 years, we're going to be out of here, right?
Verse 10. Then Hananiah the prophet took the yoke from off the prophet's Jeremiah's neck and brake it. And Hananiah spake in the presence of all the people, saying, Thus saith the Lord, even so will I break the yoke of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, from the neck of all nations within the space of 2 full years. And the prophet Jeremiah went his way. Then the word of the Lord came into Jeremiah the prophet after that Hananiah the prophet had broken the yoke from off the neck of the prophet Jeremiah, saying, Go and tell Hananiah, saying, Thus saith the Lord, Thou hast broken the yokes of wood, but thou shalt make for them yokes of iron. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, I have put a yoke of iron upon the necks of all these nations, that they may serve Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and they shall serve him, and I have given him the beast of the field also. Then said the prophet Jeremiah unto Hananiah the prophet, Hear now, Hananiah, the Lord has not sent thee but thou makest this people to trust in a lie. Therefore thus say the Lord, behold, I will cast thee from off the face of the earth. This year thou shalt die, because thou hast taught rebellion against the Lord. So Hananiah the prophet died the same year in the 7th month.
So that's an example of a false prophet. He stood up when in the hard times of Jake, because the Lord already told Jeremiah to tell Israel that they are to go under the yoke of King Babylon, and after 70 years, the Most High will destroy King Babylon. This guy stood up and said, the Lord gonna deliver us in 2 years. Of course, that's gonna make Jake happy, right? But that made the Most High mad. He even convinced Jeremiah, and he said, "Look, you broken the yokes of wood, but now you gonna, thou shalt make them yokes of iron." So he just made it even worse. And what happened to him? He was destroyed. So that's how you can determine if a prophet is truly a prophet of the Lord or not. And us being in these end of days, we have to go off of what was written, and we have to go off of the prophecies of everything that is happening now. Like any of those guys in Islam, if there's one thing they can't explain is what's going on now, the future, what's going to happen, They don't know. They're all involved with politics and hoping to change things like that. They don't have the understanding, because we used to ask them, okay, well, tell me what's going to happen with all this, tension between races. They can only give you an answer that they can perceive what may happen next. We will go to the book and prove that.
Yeah, let me pull a precept on that. I've been holding this one. This is Amos chapter 3, this verse 7. It says, surely the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants, the prophets. So just like with this story right here with Jeremiah, the Lord had, he revealed that what he was going to do to them. And then same thing with the brother talking about during these end of days. We're out there, speaking these precepts because the Lord revealed them to us through this book. Like he said, we got this word right here.
Precept to back that up. Isaiah 48 verse 3. I have declared the former things from the beginning, and they went forth out of my mouth, and I showed them. I did them suddenly, and they came to pass, because I knew that thou art obstinate, and thy neck is an iron sinew, and thy brow brass. I have even from the beginning declared it to thee. Before it came to pass, I showed it thee. Lest thou shouldest say, mine idol have done them, and my graven image, and my molten image have commanded them.
That's all you had on that one?
I can keep reading. It says, Thou hast heard, see all this, and will not ye declare it? I have showed thee new things from this time, even hidden things, and thou didst not know them. They are created now, and not from the beginning, even before the day when thou heardest them not, lest thou shouldest say, behold, I knew them. So the Lord had revealed things to us before he made it happen, lest we should say, oh, mine idol have done it, or oh, that's just coincidence, or that's just a natural occurrence, right? Things like that that these people will say today, like how let's say like the rainbow, for example. People probably get that, because that's an example right there, right? Yeah. You read the book, and well, first of all, before you come into the truth, you know about the rainbow, which is a natural phenomenon, right? Mm-hmm. And then you go to the scriptures, and it tells you.
That's actual evidence that you can see the rainbow, which is important too. Because a lot of people, that's what they're gonna ask you. Me, I relate to those people a lot. Before I came to the truth, that's what I would ask. I would say, okay, that story would be like, okay, I see that, but what's some physical proof? So a lot of people want physical proof, even though it goes off the spirit, but there is physical proof too. Like you said, like the rainbow is physical proof. There's a lot of different stories in here with physical proof.
Oh yeah. Heck, get your Genesis.
I'm finna pull one. I got one.
Okay.
Yeah, I got one.
Okay, this is the book. This is Genesis 9, verse 11. It says, this is from Noah. Mm-hmm. And I will establish my covenant with you. Neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of a flood. Neither shall there be any more a flood to destroy the earth. And Yahweh said, and this is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth.
Yep. I mean, it's simple, you know. You look up, you see the rainbow, and you wonder, like, you're gonna ask yourself, you're gonna say, so what is that? What does it mean? What's the symbols behind it? You know, if you're like a spiritual person, before you come into the truth, you're gonna look at the rainbow and wonder those things. Well, you can get into this book and you find out exactly what it means and exactly, you know, how it got there, where it started, you know. And the Great Flood is a beautiful, you know, story, because that's physical evidence, you know. Any scientist or researcher that's really into figuring out if there was a great flood on the earth, they're all going to tell you at some point in time there was a great flood in the earth. Back then I did a little research on it. They said that in Alaska, they could see like through the rock that there is evidence of there being a great flood on the earth at some point in time. So that's physical evidence. I actually had the next story after that, which is Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah. I was just about to mention it, but let me read the next verse. It says, and it shall come to pass when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud. Now, when does the rain happen? After rain. That's a covenant that the Most High said, I will not destroy, you know, the earth anymore with water. That's proof right there. Okay, how many? Believe it or not, most Christians don't even know that. All right, and then you can say, okay, that's one example. Then we can go to many more. You see?
I want to get this one because this is this right here with Sodom and Gomorrah is special, because you could literally do your research on this, or if you got a little bit of money or whatever, you could travel over there. You know, I don't know if they're gonna let you get down and study, but there's people over there that's studying this stuff, that you could go to the actual place Sodom and Gomorrah. So it's physical evidence. This is Genesis chapter 19. I'm gonna start at verse 12 because there's a lot of meat in here. It says, and the man said unto Lot, right? So you had the two angels, which was the two men, said unto Lot, hast thou here any besides thy sons and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. So, you know, these men, which would you say they were kind of playing the role of a prophet when they were prophesizing to Lot what was about to happen?
About the angels?
Yeah, the angels.
Oh, they told him. They
Yeah.
flat out told him. They said, in fact, you keep reading, they had to force him out.
Yep.
Because he was, I'm not gonna say lollygagging, but he was taking his time. And they was like, look, they grabbed him and took his stuff, like, look, get out of here. The Most High will destroy this place.
Mm-hmm.
So
what if he didn't believe? Just like people today in the world, you know, what if you didn't believe? You gonna get caught out there, because this whole Bible's been telling us what's about to happen. You know, so it does have a lot to do with faith, like you said too, and belief. That's something.
No, I was gonna say it's even gonna tell you, because a lot of people don't know, is that Lot's daughters, the people in Lot's house, it wasn't just Lot and his two daughters. It was Lot and his two daughters and their husbands.
Yeah,
They both had husbands, but it's gonna tell you that they was like, man, get out of here with that. And they ran away and they're gone. That's why when Lot's daughters, they said, oh, ain't no more men on the houses, because they didn't believe. It's actually tell you that they make.
and it says, and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of this was great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. Right? And it says, and Lot went out and spake unto his son-in-laws, which married his daughters, and said, up, get you out of this place. For the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked into his son-in-law. So they mocked him. But that's important, because that's just like us right now. We're telling people, like, you know, get your spirit right with the Lord, and keep the law, statutes, and commandments, because the Lord's about to destroy this place. The exact same way that Lot was telling them. You know, he was telling them, like, you know, you get up out of here because the Lord about to destroy you. But they were mocking him. The same way when we're out there teaching and stuff like that, people mock. You know, people, what about this? And then it turns to scoffing, and I don't believe that, and they just mock in all types of different ways. So it's the same exact thing, you know. So in this case right here, Lot was prophesying to his son-in-laws that the Lord is about to destroy this place. And when the morning arose, the angels hastened Lot, so like he said, they rushed him, saying, arise, take thy wife and two daughters which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. So, you know, it's about to go down. And in verse 16 it says, and while he lingered, so he was lingering around like the brother said, and man laid hold upon his head and upon the head of his wife and upon the head of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto them, and they brought him forth and set him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, escape for thy life, look not behind, neither stay thou in all the plains, escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. So, told them to escape, but what's important in this verse is it says, look not behind thee. So, this is a classic story that everybody knows. A lot of Christians know this story. They don't really know the true meaning of it, but, if you went to church at some point in time, you probably heard about this story, so I don't get more. But it look not behind, right? So I'm going to jump down here. I'm going to jump to, I'm just going to go to verse 24. Get straight to the point. Verse 24, then the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. So he was prophesying. And, the angels was telling him, like, this place is about to get destroyed. He tried to tell his son-in-laws that this place was about to be destroyed. They got out, but something important happened. And he overthrew those cities and all the plains and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. So like in verse 17 it says, look not behind. So this is pretty much, he kind of in a position we're in right now, because we're saying, not to look behind. It's not literal, but we're saying don't look back behind and go back to your regular life. Look back and, want to build something in this world and think that you're not going to have to go through tribulation because the Lord about to destroy this place, kind of the same way that Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. And she looked behind, not believing, And I don't know if I could get this up there. This is a little quick article that I had. Nah, it's with Sodom and Gomorrah, pretty much a little quick article. Because only reason why I'm bringing it up is because, I gotta find it here. I'll try to put myself like in the shoes of other people, So I'll try to look at it like, if I'm coming into this truth, like, and I don't know much, what's some of the questions I'm gonna ask? Like a person could sit there and tell me all day, like, okay, this and that happened, but sometime at some point you want to see like some. If you're unlearned, But then when you get into this truth, you know better. It's about faith and spiritual and spirit and stuff like that. But right away, you might be like, what's something real? Like, give me something real, Because we be knuckleheads before we come into this truth. And I'm only talking about it because, I've been there, where we knuckleheads. I didn't have family members be like, oh, if the Lord is real, he needs to come down here and show himself to everybody. But it's like the Lord already did show, with the elements around this proof. But this is a little article right here, and it's on Forbes, so it's a credible kind of, I would say really a credible website. But it's on Forbes. It says, new science suggests biblical city of Sodom was smoked by a exploding meteor. Well, this says fire and brimstone, which is the same thing. I'll read a little bit of it just to go into it real quick. New research finds that a powerful airburst from a meteor colliding with an atmosphere may have wiped out a Bronze Age civilization along the north side of the Dead Sea, they say 3,500 years ago. While the findings come from the excavation of whatever the name of the company is in Jordan, may believe that the same place was once known as Sodom. So, they're doing their research there. It says it was a team, and they have been there at the site for over 13 years doing research, and they pretty much came to the conclusion that they said samples from the site showed that an extremely hot explosion event leveled an area of almost 200 square miles, including the middle Gahar, a circular plain to the north of the Dead Sea. So it says it wiped out 100% everything. So you could not have faith, and you could say, well, I need to see the physical proof. Or you could just have faith in the scriptures, and it told it right here. In the very first book of the scriptures, we know.
I'm going to show this. This is Taurus pointing out the pillar of salt of, you can look it up, but they're looking at the pillar of salt. So that's proof right there. And it shows that looks like a woman. And What are they getting this from? They're getting it from the scriptures. See, and as what the brother said, also they got they able to take the findings and trace them back and realize that, oh yeah, it was some fire that had them happen, and it adds up with the scriptures. So that's proof. And another quick example I have is in Genesis 3:16. It says, "And to the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire to reach to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee." So a woman is going to have birth pains when she brings forth children. Is that not proof and evidence? Because every woman, when they get pregnant, the first thing they think of is, why I'm having contractions, why I'm having all this pain, and they tell you because it goes back to the scriptures. That's proof enough right there. And no amount of anesthesia or painkillers gets rid of that pain. That's one thing they can't get around. They got all this birth control, but when it comes to that birth pains, they can't get around that. They can only, lighten the pain. They can't get rid of it. That's in the scriptures as well. That's physical proof, right?
Yeah.
And
He talks about 10 months too, don't he?
yeah. This is, I got a precept. This is, okay. This is 2 Ezra chapter 9. He answered me then and said, "Measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs which I have told thee before, then thou shalt understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made." So part of our job is to watch. We read the scriptures, the Lord gives prophecies of what's going to happen, and then we watch. And when we see those things happen, that's proof that it's happening. A good example is, like I said, the microchip. I did a video titled, "So was the microchip just one big lucky guess?" Because that microchip and the New World Order, all that was back, you could say, in the 70s. And this wasn't not only coming from the prophets, but you got truthers out there talking about the microchip and the mark of the beast, whatever. And the very existence of it was laughed at for the longest. But now, in the past 2 or 3 years, it's evident that this is the life we headed to. So my question is, was that just one big lucky guess? Or did it have any significance in the Bible? See, that's proof right there. But a lot of you are gonna have to get hit with the with the chip, be in that hour of temptation. Then you're gonna say, okay, now I know that but for a lot of you, it's gonna be too late. That's why you gotta get it now.
And why are they going to get hit with it? Because they trying to be a part of the world, man. They can't let go. Kind of like with Lot's wife. They looking back into the world. A lot of brothers that come into the truth, but people, period. They're looking forward to this place lasting forever. They're looking back into the world. So.
Okay, you get 1 Timothy 4.
1 Timothy 4.
Because that's proof right there. The mindset of these people and them denying the situation they're in, denying the fact that the Lord has a plan and everything that's happening, that's proof enough right there. Hey, the fact that we have scoffers, that's proof. If we didn't have scoffers, then the Bible wouldn't be true. Because Scripture talk about scoffers. Scripture talk about people who will sell our own people out, people who will kill the prophets. Scriptures talk about that.
Well, verse in it. 1 Timothy.
It'll be from the top. I'm going to read the 1 Timothy 4. I'm going to read the next verse. It says, "Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes," which that's a common thing now. Every single day there's like at least 10 earthquakes minimum around the world. It says, and there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world. What's an uproar? That means civil unrest. The people are in disagreement with the government. People are in disagreement with the society, the powers that be, what's going on. We got that going on right now, all over the world. It says, "Then thou shalt well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that which were before thee, even from the beginning. For like as all that is made in the world has a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest, even so the times also of the highest have plain beginnings and wonder and powerful works, and endings and effects and signs." So before the ending happened, he has effects and signs. Part of those signs is the prophecy. Us waking up to know who we are, that's part of the prophecy. You see, so you can go so many ways with that question that he asks. He says, how do you know what you're reading is right? How do we know? It all comes down to faith, because we were blessed with the Holy Holy Spirit, and because we see everything that's happening. You know, we're just out there teaching something that's not happening. What are we prophesying about things that's not happening? No, we're prophesying about things that is happening. One of the things was a great awakening. You know, for years we got scoffers that walk by. Now every time we walk by, it's a shalom. We haven't had a scoffer walk by and just scoff in a very long time. Now it's shalom, shalom at Hebrew, shalom at Hebrew. You can't tell me that was just this trend is just so popular that it got a simple nigga who don't know nothing but, you know, big booty women and riding, listening to loud music, but he know how to say shalom to some Hebrew Israelites. You know, you think, you know, a guy that he probably can't even read, but, you know, he knows that what we're doing is correct, and he knows that Esau is the white man, the devil, and he knows that we got the truth. Come on.
And there's been a man that's been saying, like the apostles, they've been saying for the longest years that it's going to be a great awakening. And then you see that starting to happen. I got a quick one real quick because it goes into exactly what you just said. This is Ezekiel chapter 33, verse 33. And when this cometh to pass, lo it will come, then shall they know that a prophet has been among them. So you go back, I went back and forth with somebody I know and stuff like that on what the mark of the beast was going to be. And then we came to a conclusion. And the conclusion was, we're going to see when it comes out. So when it comes to pass, then we're going to know who was the prophet who was prophesizing about that.
And the apostles had ended several discussions with that one, you know, response, that one answer, because it all comes down to, you got some people who sincerely lost, they sincerely believe that the mark of the beast is spiritual, and they respectfully decline the mark of the beast. And there's really no more debate. All we're gonna say is what we gonna see. Yeah. And that would be my question if I ever came across any member of like IUIC or any group that specifically that I know that don't believe the mark of the beast is true. My answer would be, my response, my first question would be, do you believe we're in the end of days? They should say yes. Then after that, I'm gonna say, okay, what proof do you have to show me that since this mark is spiritual, so-called, show me where is Trump or NATO? What are they putting in place to say that, you know, nobody can buy or sell except you confess it? I don't know, you believe you're Christian or whatever it is that they're saying, because it's not Christianity. Because I guess we got this news for you. America doesn't deal with the Bible. They're looking to ban the Bible. So how can the mark of the beast be Christianity or Caesar Borgia, Jesus, the so-called white man, when they don't got anything in place setting up saying you can't buy or sell unless you bow to them? They're doing away with the Bible. So my proof would be, show me some proof that we coming into this mark of the beast. If you believe we're in the end of days, that would be my question. Now, if you ask me, show some proof to you, I got all day, man.
Right, so, because it's like, what is the grievous sword? Like, is that spiritual too? Like, is it a spiritual grievous sword, those who have the mark of the beast? No, that's a literal grievous sword that they're going to have. I mean, that's simple. You say you want 1 Timothy chapter 4, starting at verse 1. Alright, now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some should depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils.
Oh man, you know how many brothers we done seen walk out this truth? Hot men that turned away the truth, that had the spirit, and then they fell off. Look, the Lord talked about that. That's in the scripture. See, we're not just gonna be shocked without any type of explanation. We know why. The scripture tells you that it's because of the lust of the world, you know, the women please the world and find the curse that is rich, things like that, like Buchanan, for example. It wasn't like, oh man, that's not in the scriptures. No, we know exactly what are going to the scriptures. We know because the scriptures tell us these men will love this truth, but then once they get the fire gets a little hot, they're going to take away this truth for the faith, for money's sake, right? Or to save their own souls. The scriptures tell us that. So when we see a Nick Cannon pull his little stunt, guess what we go? We go right to the book, right? Everything we bring out of the book. It's out the scripture. This is how we know it's true.